Well, with me on the set is Dr. Kakungulu Mayambala, an expert on legal matters. He is a lecturer at the School of Law at Makerere University. Doctor, thanks for joining me.
Welcome.
Yeah. Well, Doctor, the issue at hand is the arrival of the Kenyan President, Uhuru Kenyatta, who is here, well, to have a wide range of discussion with the Ugandan Parliament on issues to do with regional security, on issues to do with the democracy. Well, even today he has been visiting quality chemicals, pharmaceutical industry dealing in retrovirus drugs, ARVs, and he has also met the business community of Uganda at Serena Hotel. But the issue here is about his speech tomorrow to do with regional security and democracy in the region. But to start with, Uhuru Kenyatta, he is the chairperson of the Council of Presidents of the East African Community. And what we are seeing happening in the East African community, that taking Burundi, Rwanda, and Uganda, and Kenya and Tanzania into account, is to do with the three countries that have done away with the presidential term limits. What does this mean to him if you are to assess his performance in that direction?
Now the chairperson of the summit of the heads of state of the 5 partner states in the East African community, and in that capacity I think is trying to enhance the bilateral relations between his country Kenya and all the East African partner states, the partner states of the East African community. And as you are aware, on issues of terrorism, the Al-Shabaab, Uganda and Kenya, they've been at the forefront of the fight against terrorism in the East African community. And so I think also Kenya and Uganda have a lot of dealings in terms of bilateral trade, as Uganda being a landlocked country and most of its goods going through Kenya.
If we are to assess his performance as the chairman of the Summit of Presidents of the East African Community, we saw things going bad in Burundi under his chair, doing away with presidential term limits. Rwanda, the same, almost last month. Uganda, that it's not an issue for debate. The man is now into his 5th term. Now, we are seeing that the principles of democracy are now only being left in Kenya and Tanzania, where we see people are still respecting their constitutions. What do you make of that? How do you assess his performance, that things have played bad in his face?
And to Uhuru Kenyatta, as the chairperson of the summit of the heads of state in the East African community, it's more of a diplomatic relationship with these countries, because you know we are not yet into the political federation. We are just heading there. So there are some core values in the East African, in the treaty for the establishment of the East African community, such as the term limits, usually 5-year 2 terms. But if a partner state decides to go against that, like Uganda did in 2005, and then Burundi and Rwanda, the way they've done just recently, it may reflect negatively on the performance of the chairperson, but the chairperson, apart from just trying to convince his colleagues not to go to that side, there is nothing much he can do in terms of preventing that tide if it comes up on his side. So since Kenya still has the term limits, as does the Tanzanian government, I think I would say that his performance remains relatively well despite those challenges.
Tanzania is almost falling out of the federation now. Tanzania feels more comfortable being in SADC than the East African community?
Well, in terms of the federation, the East African community, we are already in the Common Market Protocol. What is left is we have the Customs Union. What is left are only two stages of the Monetary Union and then the Political Federation. Now, in terms of Tanzania, of course, has double membership with the SADC and is taking a back seat in the East African community matters, but still under the Treaty for the Establishment of the East African Community, there is what they call the principle of geometry, whereby partner states need not take similar steps at the same time all the time. So other partner states can move a step ahead, others can lag behind a bit in terms of develop the key steps, but all in all, as long as a partner state remains part of the community, as Tanzania still is, it can still have dual membership in other communities. It's allowed.
Well, now let us go to the issue of regional security. When you look at regional security, really, under the chair of President Uhuru Kenyatta, has he done enough to seize insecurities in different countries that lie within the East African community? Recently, I've just seen the M23 almost disorganizing the other part of Congo, being Uganda and Rwanda being accused of aiding that force. Then you see in South Sudan what is almost still on under his chair, but silently, people are being killed silently. Has he done enough? Because I'm seeing, in fact, IGAD and the African Union feel much more comfortable to deal with the President Museveni in solving this matter than President Uhuru.
Yeah, well, the President Uhuru is a civilian, as you are aware. He's not a military man, unlike our President Museveni and President Kagame. So on issues of national security or regional security, the President Kagame and President Museveni may have an upper hand. One, they are army generals. Two, they've been around as presidents for quite a long period of time, whereas Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta has just assumed the presidency, and he is not, he doesn't have a military background. So, but his country has tried with some success to fight off the Al-Shabaab, and at least except for a few instances of terrorist attacks here and there in Kenya, you find that the country is relatively stable. And I think in Burundi and the rebels and also a bit of Rwanda, I think that has an historical perspective, because these countries have been at war even before the President Uhuru became the chairperson of the head of summit.
So don't you think that making such a kind of analysis, are you not seeing Uhuru just being in that chair, being used as a rubber stamp? Because the old boys determine what's good for regional security than him.
Yeah, well, I think the chair is rotational, so these countries have to rotate the chair, and is meant to be a team leader, working with them, consulting with them, where I think they have the expertise or they have an upper hand for the good of the East African community, and I think he's trying to work in that direction.
Because one would argue that he's being perceived to be like a ceremonial leader, the way he's perceived to be in their own constitution of Kenya. Because even in Kenya, he does not take serious decisions.
Well, in terms of the East African community, of course, there will be more powerful presidents and those who may not be powerful. But in terms of the community, like I've said, the chair of the heads of summit, of the heads of state or summit of the East African community has to rotate. So every president within the region will have a chance to be the chair. Now it will be upon that president to be either to be more influential or to overshadow others, or not to be so influential, depending on how he or she navigates the dynamics. And again, as you are seeing, President Uhuru, he's coming to Kenya, I mean to Uganda, he's going to Burundi, bringing Rwanda on board. I think he's trying to assert his influence.
Okay. As we come to the end of this interactive news segment,
Yeah.
what do you make of, if you assess, Burundi walking out, abandoning presidential term limits, Rwanda adopting the same thing, Uganda, that one is a no debate, insecurity that has characterized the region, Burundi, South Sudan, because also South Sudan is also on table to join. Really, what do you make of his performance?
President Uhuru has, as a leader in Kenya, I think he's liked. He has done fairly well. And in terms of the East African community, as the chair of the summit of the heads of state, I think he still has more time to build his influence, but he has to work on the issue of security and to address the concerns of most of the East Africans, things we have talked about, common visa, common tuition, issues of terrorism. He has to still be firm on those. And I think that's what will define his legacy for the time he has been the chairperson of the head of state summit, because he may never get a chance to be the chair again, because if his country maintains the term limit, then probably he may do his second term without having a chance to hold this chair again. So I think this is a good opportunity for him to influence change, especially owing to the fact that he comes from a very influential country, Kenya, in the region, and the biggest economy in the region.
Yeah, but between me and you, I think the biggest challenge that he's going to face is discussing security matters and discussing things to do with the democracy. Because I do believe, when I see the Ugandan president and the Rwandan president and Pierre Nkurunziza, they only listen to him when he rises to speak on economic issues, because that's where they see him with a lot of expertise. But when it comes to regional security and democracies, they just give him a cold shoulder.
Yeah, I think like it's not easy to be all around, because like I've said, Kenya's upper hand in the communities, they have a relatively good political history despite a few challenges here and there, but their strength is the economy and the culture of hard work amongst their people. So on issues of security and geopolitics, I think then he can rely on President Museveni or President Kagame, because that also takes time to build, to become the old man around, to become the elder around. You need some time. You're not going to be a president for 1 year or 3 years and then you have that kind of impact. So still, he will need to rely on those two gentlemen for political and the security.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kakungulu Mayambala, for
much.
joining me. Thank you very much.
Welcome.